Okay, so what we're looking at here is some symbols that you're going to come across quite a bit when we get more and more into looking at circuits and drawing circuits. So we're just going to kind of go through what the symbol is, and we'll start putting together different circuits with these symbols. So these are called schematic diagrams. So essentially, instead of drawing what it will actually look like, we're drawing a symbol to represent that thing. So for example, instead of having a battery as being, what the battery would actually look like, perhaps like what we have over here, instead of the actual picture of the battery, we're actually going to use symbols to represent those things, okay? So we'll go through each one of the symbols you're going to come across. So straight lines always represent conductors or conducting wires. So essentially, when we draw lines to connect different parts of the circuit to each other, we're representing wires when we do that. So this symbol we've actually already seen. So this here is actually showing an open switch. And then of course, a closed switch would look like a complete straight line. So meaning this little lever has been connected. So remember that when the switch is closed, that's when the circuit is actually running. Now this symbol we haven't seen yet. It almost looks the same as a switch with the two dots, but instead of it being a straight line, it's a squiggly line. Okay, so this diagram represents a fuse. So that's that safety drawing mechanism that we were talking about before, right? So here we have a fuse. So these are basically control mechanisms. Of course, they're different, either a switch or a fuse. Okay, we've seen this symbol before actually when we were doing static electricity and discharge. So this is the symbol for a ground or a grounding wire. Right, we've seen that schematic before. Okay, this is a new one for us. So it's a straight line, and then there's this zigzag symbol in the middle. This is representing a resistor. Okay, so this will become more important next week when we talk about what resistors do. In a nutshell, resistors basically slow down electron flow. It's actually a type of load as well. Okay, so don't worry so much right now about what it does. It's more so just understanding the diagram. So when we say, draw a circuit with a resistor, you know what the symbol is for this. We're going to come back to this later on in the unit. The next two symbols are new to us as well. So these ones, again, will become more important in the sections to follow. So we have here an A with a circle around it. So this is representing something called an ammeter. So what an ammeter does is it measures the current that's in a circuit. Okay, so again, don't worry so much right now about what it does. Just know the symbol. So if you're asked to draw a circuit that has an ammeter in it, you know the symbol is a capital letter A with a circle. Here we have a capital letter V with a circle. This is a voltmeter. So again, we're going to talk about this next week, but a voltmeter is something that will measure the voltage of a circuit. So maybe you've heard of that term voltage before or amps before. So these are the things that we can use to measure properties of circuits. Okay, so here we come to some batteries. So batteries also go by a term called an electrochemical cell. Or sometimes you'll see them just be called cells, okay? So when we say cells in circuits, we're not talking about cells like inside of our bodies or in a bacteria, right? We're talking about cells in terms of battery cells. So what a cell looks like is essentially a set of lines, okay? So every cell has one big line and one little line. Okay, the little lines always represent the negative terminal of the battery. The long line represents the positive terminal of the battery. So what we just drew here was one big line and one small line. So this represents one cell because it comes as a set. So this first picture up here is actually called a one cell battery. right? So it has one set of a big and small line. Now, if you look at the next picture, it looks very similar, except there are multiple sets. So we have a big and a small line, so that's one set. Another big and small line, that's two sets. And then a third big and small line. So this is called a 3-cell battery. Okay, but notice we always, if you're drawing a battery, so the symbol for the batteries, the last small line and the first, I guess you say first big line, right? Like the ones at the very ends, you have to show the symbol for it. So you have to show, okay, well, this is the negative and this is the positive end. Okay, so cells can come in a whole bunch of different numbers. You can have a 2-cell battery. You can have a 4-cell battery. Every cell is a big and small line set. So let's say I had to draw a 2-cell battery, right? Here's one cell, and here's the second cell. So this would be a 2-cell battery. Okay, and if you're drawing circuits, it will always tell you the number of cells. So we'll say, you know what, we'll do some examples in a little bit, okay? So this picture here is actually a more complex version of the one I'm going to show you, but this symbol is representing a light bulb, or remember we can call that a lamp also. So it's a line, and then there's kind of like a squiggly M, and then another line with a circle, but I'll show you an easier way to draw it. What you can do is draw a line, make a loop in the line, and draw a circle around the loop. Okay, so you can choose, both of these ways are correct. Okay, they both represent, they're both schematic diagrams representing light bulbs. So let's say we had 2 light bulbs, you would just do 2 loops, right? So one light bulb and the second light bulb. Okay, before we get to try it, another symbol you're going to come across is a capital M. Okay, so this represents a motor. So it's another type of load. So really the loads that we've learned the drawings for are a motor, a light bulb, or a resistor. Okay, does that mean there's not symbols for other loads? Okay, no, there are other symbols, but these are the 3 that we're going to be drawing in grade 9. Okay? All right, so we're going to try it out. So we're going to draw a schematic circuit diagram. So schematic means we're using symbols. So we're going to do a battery with 2 cells, a closed switch, and a light bulb. Okay, so let's start by drawing our battery. So remember that we need one big line and one little line for every cell. So because it's a 2-cell battery, we're going to have 2 sets. Okay, so we're drawing wires to connect things. So we have a closed switch. That means there should be no gaps. And a light bulb. We're going to connect it back to our battery. So here's our little circuit. So we have a 2-cell battery, a closed switch, and a light bulb. Okay, so a couple of things to keep in mind. Every time you draw a battery, you need to show the positive end and the negative end, right? Now, because this switch is closed, that means the circuit is on, okay? Anytime the circuit is on your diagram, you should draw an arrow showing the direction of the electrons, right? So remember, the direction of electrons are always out of the negative and into the positive. So the next video that you're going to watch will discuss this further. So electron movement is always out of the negative and into the positive. Okay, so electrons are always flowing out of the negative and into the positive. So it's only a one direction current. Something to keep in mind, if this switch was opened, so let's say it was not closed, you would not put the electron flow because the electrons are not flowing. So you only draw this electron flow when you have a complete circuit. All right, so if you want to pause the video and try drawing this out yourself, and we'll see how we did. So pause the video now Give this a try. So you're going to draw a circuit diagram with a 2-cell battery connected to 2 motors and a closed switch. Okay, so we have a 2-cell battery, right? So remember the symbol for motor is that M circle, and then we have 2 motors, and we have a closed switch. Imagine that's colored in. So negative, positive. Because this is closed, we will show the electron movement, right? So the electrons are basically moving around. Now, when you're doing this, it doesn't really matter if you put the 2 motors on the same line or on separate lines. It just matters that you draw the 2 motors somewhere in your circuit. Usually you put it in the order that it's written in the description. So notice I did the 2-cell battery, then the motor, then the second motor, and then the closed switch. Okay, give this one a try. So we have a circuit diagram with a single cell battery, a light bulb, and a fuse. Okay, so single cell battery, a light bulb, and remember the fuse is the squiggly connected. So here's our light bulb. Don't forget to actually do the circuit. So we have negative, positive. Because this is closed, you would show electron direction, right, with the arrows. Okay, and then our last one, pause the video if you'd like. So we have a 3-cell battery, 1 resistor, 1 light bulb or lamp, and an open switch. Okay, so 3-cell battery, remember that's 3 sets of big and small. So here's 1, 2, 3 sets. We have 1 resistor. We have 1 light bulb. And now we have an open switch. Let's draw a circle around this loop. Okay, so here, because this is an open switch, we are not going to show the electron movement. This is what it is. The electrons are not moving right now. If this was closed, we would show that. So we're going to use these schematic diagrams a little bit later on in this unit. It's important to remember what each of the symbols are and kind of getting the hang for drawing these all together.